Hey guys, it's AVerMedia, and as some of you may know, I recently sold my ExtremeCap HD Pro, and I bought a new capture card, the AVerMedia ExtremeCap U3. Now, the reasons I bought this capture card was more because now that YouTube is accepting 60 FPS videos, I thought it's time I get a 60 FPS capture card. So this capture card itself can capture 1080p at 60 FPS, and at a pretty incredible 60 megabits per second bitrate. But it's not just that as well, you can also capture uncompressed using some of their plugins for Sony Vegas and Adobe Premiere Pro, but from my experience of those, they're not that good. Anyway, so this video is going to be about assessing its pros, its cons, and different problems with gameplay, etc. So the gameplay you're seeing here is from a game of Battlefield 4 I played, and this was recorded with that particular capture card. And something you may have noticed straight away is that there is a little bit of flickering on screen. Now, I'm not that sure whether this is to do with my own hardware, whether my laptop is actually capable of encoding fast enough at 60 FPS 1080p at 60 megabits per second, but it seems to be a common problem that a lot of people are having. Now, I did contact AVerMedia, and they did say that the problem was due to a USB 3 port not working that well. Now, I have tried it on other computers, and it does have the same problem here. I am using verified 3.0 chipsets, and everything seems to be fine, but I think this is more of a software problem than anything else, really. Anyway, aside from that, the card itself is actually really good. You can see the quality is pretty incredible. I'm not sure if that's that noticeable because YouTube does compress videos and everything, and YouTube's 1080p 60 FPS isn't that great, as when it is played at 60 FPS it is compressed heavily because YouTube don't like their broadband load to be too high. But anyway, if 60 megabits per second isn't enough for you, you can always capture uncompressed via their plugins for Sony Vegas Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro. But these plugins I have found to be a bit buggy, as the Sony Vegas one is designed for the older version, and the Adobe Premiere Pro one actually crashes quite a lot while recording. There's no lag or anything, but it just crashes on the spot. It's not a very well made plugin. But anyway, that is a method you can use to capture uncompressed, which is something that not many cards provide. As well as this is, I think, the first capture card that actually came out. This card came out last year, which was the first capture card that came out with 60 FPS capture. And of course for that you do have to have a USB 3.0 chipset, because USB 2.0 just won't work with 60 FPS. It doesn't have the bandwidth for 60 FPS 1080p capture. But onto the software. AVerMedia capture cards come with a software called Rec Central, and Rec Central is basically your hub to install and record whatever programs you have. So when you're recording, you can choose default settings, audio bit rates, and everything, pretty much. So I'm actually pretty impressed with the software. It's very easy to use. It has a nice preview screen, which doesn't lag actually. And one of the biggest claims with this capture card is that it's zero latency. Now, I wouldn't say it's zero latency, but it's very, very low latency. I mean, unless you were playing a serious first-person shooter, you really wouldn't notice it at all, but it's extremely small, and you can ignore it in reality, as long as you're not playing something that really does heavily mean you need to put up with a delay. Speaking of delays, another complaint with this capture card was the fact that it didn't provide an HDMI pass-through. Like most cards have an HDMI input and an HDMI output, so you can actually play with zero latency in the first place. But because the preview screen, as AVerMedia claimed, had zero latency, they didn't provide an HDMI pass-through and just said that you should just play from the preview screen. But what they don't understand is that it's not exactly zero latency, it's just very low. And also the fact that some people use laptops to record their gameplay, and they can't output from their laptops to a TV screen or monitor. And that's a huge problem that they have with this, so some people are just going to have to spend the extra money like I did to buy a splitter to actually split the HDMI signal and send one to the capture card and one to the TV screen. Aside from this though, if we get back on topic, Rec Central also has a streaming feature, and it does allow you to stream at 1080p 60 FPS, but I actually haven't seen a single Twitch streamer who's actually done that. So it does allow you to change the options to 720p 60 FPS or whatever suits your internet bandwidth. Anyway, there's not many more features than that to the streaming part of Rec Central, so that is why the AVerMedia do allow you to use it as a separate video input for other software like XSplit or open broadcasting software, OBS, which is quite a popular one that I use sometimes. So you can always use those for it, but it won't mean that you get exactly the best quality that you'd get with Rec Central. But still, you'll get a really good quality, and anyway, you don't need that great a quality for streaming. Rec Central is probably the best thing to use if you're just going to record gameplay and not going to stream. Now onto the capture card itself. It is very similar to its predecessor, the Live Gamer Portable, as in its size, but the actual look is very different. This time AVerMedia have gone for a more black look. It's completely black all round with the ExtremeCap U3 and AVerMedia logo on the top. It has a very sleek design which is quite inconspicuous and not so in your face like the Live Gamer Portable, and I think this is a very good thing as it's nowhere near as distracting as that or my Roxio GameCap HD Pro, which was also quite distracting because of its flashy lights and everything. This one has a nice simple soft blue lights while you're not recording and a soft glowing red light while you are recording. Before I go on to the conclusion of this video, I do have to say that even though this device can't capture 5.1 surround sound, it will only capture stereo, the sound quality is still pretty amazing. It allows you to capture up to 324 kilobits per second sound, which is actually very high quality. I'm sure most of you couldn't tell the difference between that and the normal 192 kilobits per second, which I normally record at. But either way, it does mean you get some pretty amazing sound, especially when turned up all the way on your headphones. It sounds better than when the game's playing in the first place. So do the pros outweigh the cons? Well, first of all, this card has amazing quality. It also allows you to capture in 60 FPS 1080p and stream at that quality too. It also means that you can also capture at uncompressed quality or through their actual software at a pretty incredible 60 megabits per second. But there are also quite a few cons. Sometimes when you're recording I get some sort of screen flickering, which sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. This was one of those recordings that it did happen in. I did record half an hour of Call of Duty Ghosts gameplay, where that actually didn't happen, surprisingly, which shows that it could be something to do with the game. Anyway, other people with this card have also had problems where if they don't own a HDMI splitter, they have all sorts of problems like the screen tearing, the screen blacking out, and all sorts of issues, including screen flickering. However, I do actually have a HDMI splitter, which does mean that I can see it properly. Everything works pretty well apart from that screen flickering. And the software, I've heard other people report it crashing all the time, but after a year since this card's release, I think those issues have been fixed. There are only a few minor issues left. And I think this is a very good card for the price. I bought it for £109, which I think is pretty good for the card, seeing as it is USB 3.0 and also 1080p 60 FPS capture. So overall, my opinion is, I do recommend you to get it. It's a fantastic card for the price. There may be a few glitches, but they're very likely to be sorted out through quick updates, as AVerMedia do actually, AVerMedia do roll out quick updates unlike Roxio did, who rolled out updates once every 4 or 5 months, which was very annoying, especially when there was a problem with their software. But AVerMedia seems to do it pretty well, and everything seems to be going fine with this card. Seeing as there is the screen flickering problem, I'm sure that will probably be fixed sometime soon. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and I hope you enjoyed the video as a whole. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you like this video, don't forget to like it. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.